Hey everybody, my name is Scott Colby. Welcome to the Grateful Entrepreneur, an online summit all about growing your business with gratitude. Now during this summit, I'll be interviewing entrepreneurs and leaders about the power of gratitude, appreciation, giving, and customer experience to help you grow your business. Today, my special guest is Yasmin Nguyen. As a professional speaker, consultant, and business lifestyle coach, Yasmin helps overworked givers find more space and time for themselves. He helps them create an alignment plan so that they can show up as their best self with more joy, connection, and impact. Now, as an entrepreneur for 17 years, Yasmin has worked with Fortune 500 executives, nonprofit leaders, and industry influencers. He empowers business leaders and impact organizations with self-care and gratitude practices that reduce burnout, elevate performance, and build resilience. His passion for helping women in business is inspired by his mother's courage and sacrifice for a better life for her children. See, in 1978, she led her 3 infant children through the jungle to board a small boat. Now, fleeing communist Vietnam, they were rescued at sea as their boat sank to the bottom of the ocean. Every day, Yasmin is so grateful for the gift of her courage and the opportunity to transform lives through this work. You can find out more about what Yasmin is doing over at gratitudeinspiredliving.com. Yasmin, welcome. How are you today?
Awesome. Thanks so much, Scott, for having me.
Oh, gosh, it is a pleasure. You know, we don't really know each other, so you took a chance and said yes to this interview, so I'm thrilled that you did so. Just kind of doing my research and my homework to study up on what you're doing, I feel like we share a lot of the same things, you know, obviously our gratitude movements, but also kind of stepping back and creating space and unplugging. That's something I'm passionate about. I know you are too. And we're going to kind of dive into both topics today on this interview. And Yasmin, I know you do a great job weaving gratitude into your everyday life, both personally and in your business. And I was looking at your website. It said you want to inspire at least 1 million acts of gratitude to grow magnificent relationship, businesses, and communities. Can you kind of take us back, and where did this thought process first come about?
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. I mean, what a gift to be able to be here with you and to also share with your audience as well. And, you know, for me, gratitude has just really been a cornerstone as to just the joy and the experiences that I've had throughout my life. I mean, it's definitely been a lot of struggles, you know, coming to America, not having any money, not speaking English. It's always been a place for me to try to feel like I wanted to belong or to feel important. And throughout my life, as I've met so many people that have been successful, that have been really joyful, they've always shared with me that gratitude is a key practice that that they're committed to. And I'm really mindful of using the word practice because it's not just about doing something and being grateful, but it's an ongoing practice. And for me, I've always seen that gratitude's always been like the superfood that really nourishes ourselves, and especially during challenging times. And as an entrepreneur for 17 years, there's been lots of challenging times along the way. And so it's just been something, gratitude has been something that I have just found so much impact in terms of my business and the relationships that I've had. And now just really diving deeper into how do we get to the practical aspects of it? Because so many of us talk about the importance of gratitude, but how do we roll up our sleeves and make it really applicable to achieve objectives that we want? For example, business growth in this case here.
Yeah, well, I love that. We're going to dive in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. But you mentioned something, and that's the challenges that entrepreneurs have. Really, everybody has challenges in their life. As entrepreneurs that you and I have, I mean, it is like a roller coaster. We can have some nice wins, and we can have some moments where we really want to give up. And then you started this concept of practicing weekly retirement. Tell us what that is. What was your experience like first doing it? And
Mhm.
how can that actually impact your business in a positive fashion?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Scott, about 5 years ago, I was trying to run five different businesses at the same time. I had a serious case of what we call FOMO, fear of missing out. And so I said yes to so many things. At that moment, I had 10 tenants, three rental properties, a web design business, a food business, an e-commerce store, and a social club. And amongst all those, I thought that I could juggle all those, but I realized that it just became completely overwhelming. I was sleeping in my office. My health was suffering. My relationships were failing. And just as a result, I completely hit burnout. And I remember one day we went to my office and I sat at my desk and I just couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. And I just had this calling to hop in my car and drive as far west as I could. And since I live in Portland, Oregon, the furthest I could go was this place called Cannon Beach. And the minute that I got there, I took off my shoes, I took off my socks, and I was just standing there with my eyes closed in the sand. And I just took a deep breath and felt peace for the first time. I felt freedom, that freedom that I wanted being an entrepreneur, but not realizing that I created my own prison and trap under all of these responsibilities. And as an overworked giver, I would define myself as someone who takes care of achieving, but also all these people. I always found myself last on my own list, and and so when I got there, I was able to just have this experience where I felt like this is what's most important. So I made a commitment to come back the next week, and the following week, and the following week, and a year and a half later, I had been out to the coast at least 52 times. And as a result of creating this space in my life and intentionally filling this space with what I call life-giving experiences, I was able to gain clarity. I was able to reconnect with myself. I ended up getting rid of all of my business except for one.
Mhm.
I healed my body and then also developed amazing friend relationships. And by going through this process, it was my way of what I call practicing retirement and creating this retirement day practice, because I would go out on Wednesdays and sit on the beach and think about all my friends who are still working in meetings and cubicles and all that. I'm like, oh, so this is what it's like to retire. And so over the course of 52 trips, I realized that I had accumulated over 52 days of retirement, 52 days of personal freedom by unplugging. And so this is a concept that I teach and I speak about and I help others not only make time for self-care or time for themselves, but create that space that we so need, and then intentionally filling this space with something that's important, whether it be for rest or personal growth or to go on an adventure, being very intentional about how we fill that space rather than abdicating that space to whatever happens. So.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I mean, so many parallels to my philosophies as well, Yasmin.
Mhm.
You know, I offer unplugged trips. We're doing one this summer called the Gratitude Trek. We're going to be unplugged for 4 days in the Sierra Mountains out in California. Can't wait for that. Just this past weekend, I live in Denver, so kind of some parallels to Portland, right? It's a busy city. You're downtown, I'm downtown. It's a concrete jungle around here. We don't often get to escape from people and traffic. I took an overnight trip 2.5 hours away to a small mountain town called Salida, 5,000 people. Completely rejuvenated me, stimulated my creative juices because it's a sleepy mountain town and there's no traffic. And I was able to get away from my daily routine. And then with you and the Oregon coast, we were just chatting before we pressed record. I spent some time in the Oregon coast with my dad 2 summers ago. One of the best places I've ever been. You mentioned Cannon Beach. I love my Tillamook ice cream, which fortunately they sell here in Denver at the local grocery store. But yeah, Tillamook is another small town that we were able to visit. We went to the factory and just, who doesn't have a smile on their face when they're in the Oregon coast? I mean, it's a great place to get away. So love that concept of stepping back and creating some space. So really cool. And thanks for mentioning that. Oh, and I know you're probably humble about this, but you are an awesome photographer taking pictures of the Oregon coast. So just take a minute or two. You've got these mofo cards.
Mhm.
What are those? Because I was looking at those on your website and immediately wanted to get a few packs. So
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Yeah, I love that we share this common unplugging and taking space for ourselves. And as these cards and this photography, I'm just really blown away by the ability that our phone cameras can take pictures, because every single one of those photos have been taken with my phone camera, believe it or not. And it's, for me, that was part of my practice of retirement. Was each time I was out there, I was being fully present and witnessing this beauty. And by taking my phone and capturing this, it was me in some ways being very grateful and honoring this special moment, and then also inviting others to witness and experience that special moment that I was there, that they couldn't be there. And so it just brings me a lot of joy. It's been a hobby. I guess I kind of have an eye for capturing the photos, and then I just use Instagram to just kind of make it a little bit more vibrant. And so these cards, I whenever I was in this place of inspiration, I would have what I call downloads, or just moments of insights, where I would have uh, a um, a perspective on a certain aspect of life or relationships. And so I would write down these quotes. And so these mofo cards, and why they're called mofo is mofo stands for manifester of fantastic opportunities. And that's the opposite, or the antonym, of FOMO, fear of missing out. And it was really my transition from going from FOMO, a place of scarcity, of doubt, of fear, and all that, to a place of generosity and gratitude and abundance and love. These cards are meant to be an inspiration as to how can you shift and step into a place where amazing opportunities just come to you because you're grounded in these various different principles. And so one of the gifts from my time on my retirement day practice is receiving these messages, and then also capturing these beautiful moments to really appreciate them, and then to be able to share that gift with others.
awesome. Love the pictures. I went through and clicked on a few of those, and also the quotes on the back really make for a complete inspirational product there. So awesome job putting that together, Yasmin. All right, let's kind of switch gears and talk about more about how gratitude can help our businesses. So before we go into maybe one or two specific examples on how us as business owners can use gratitude, what are the primary benefits of having a gratitude practice in our lives and in our business? Like, why should we focus on that to help improve whatever we want to improve personally or through our business?
Absolutely. Well, Scott, I find that gratitude, the main purpose of gratitude, from what I experience, is really about deepening connection, and deepening connection in multiple different ways. One of the frameworks that I usually teach is this concept called gratitude 1, 2, 3. And what it really is about is it's helping us create a way of thinking about gratitude where it's applicable. One of the biggest challenges when we think about gratitude as it applies to business or other contexts is sometimes we know that it's important, and it's very airy-fairy sometimes, but how do we actually get down to something that is tangible, practical, that delivers a specific result, especially as it relates to our business? And so when we talk about gratitude 1, 2, 3, I believe that there's different levels. There's first level, which is gratitude 1.0. Gratitude 1.0 is really about deepening a connection with ourselves. When we deepen our connection with ourselves, now we're able to show up with more confidence. We're able to show up with more clarity. The second level of gratitude, gratitude 2.0, is really about deepening a connection with another individual or person. How can we enhance that relationship with more trust and value? The third level of gratitude is gratitude 3.0. And what that's about is really creating an opportunity for others to witness a moment of gratitude and appreciation. So they too then are inspired to take action and practice that as well. So, for example, what we're doing right now, sharing gratitude, then your audience is experiencing that. Hopefully, they get inspired to, and that drives towards this mission of 1,000,000 acts of gratitude and all these others. So, that's a gratitude 3.0 type of experience. So, by having that framework, now what we do is we layer on top of that what I call gratitude hacks, HACKS. And a gratitude hack is a very simple, practical, actionable act of gratitude that either is a 1.0, 2.0, or 3.0, deepening a relationship with ourselves, with others, or with our community. And they can be multiple. So for example, as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest challenges that we have, especially when we're developing something, is self-doubt. I mean, how many times have you tried something and you're like, oh man, I am not seeming like I'm making any progress. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Well, one of the gratitude 1.0 hacks that can really help address this is I call what's called a kick-ass jar. And what a kick-ass jar is, it's really about acknowledging our wins. So often as achievers, we go from one activity to the next achievement, and we forget to really acknowledge ourselves. And so one of the ways that we do this is we carry around with us little Post-it notes like this in our pockets, in our purses, whatever. And whenever we have a kick-ass moment, and a kick-ass moment is maybe a great conversation like you and I are having, or maybe you had a sale, or maybe you went and you ran that extra set of stairs, or whatever it is. No matter how big or small, if you had a kick-ass moment, write that kick-ass moment down on your note here. And so throughout the day, you're collecting these kick-ass moments. So by the end of the day, what you do is you have a jar by your desk or by your bed, and you just deposit these slips, these moments that you created, that you acknowledged, into this jar. And it's like a piggy bank, and you're noticing these grow over a period of time. And so now, whenever you have one of those funky days where you're just like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, you can grab a whole handful and read them and reconnect with those moments that you appreciated yourself. So that's a gratitude 1.0 hack that helps build confidence.
Yeah. First of all, I'm hoping that this interview makes it into your kick-ass jar, Yasmin.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Absolutely.
But I'm really thankful that you brought up the 1.0, because, as entrepreneurs or people that want to make an impact, or people that want to help others, we often don't fill up our own jar, our own cups, if you will. And so we're here, maybe we're coaches, you and I, and we're helping other people, but deep inside we could be having low self-confidence, or we could be having financial issues. We're really beating ourselves up and have self-doubt, where outwardly we're projecting another thing, like, oh, everything's okay. And and I talk about, probably your kick-ass jar is similar to what I talk about, celebrating our wins. No matter how small those wins are, we need to celebrate them in whatever fashion we choose to do so. And I love the idea of a kick-ass jar, because our own self-gratitude can affect how we communicate with others, how we show gratitude towards others, how we perform in our business, and it's only going to have a cumulative effect.
Absolutely. So true.
So Yasmin, you mentioned the 3.0, and I know you're really big on gratitude-inspired selling. When I first was researching what you do, this was the first thing I came upon, and I absolutely loved it, because I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs that I don't know, selling is tough for us. Like, it's, there's some people that are great at it, but for others, especially, it's kind of interesting, those that want to make a big impact and want to really have a heart-centered business. Like, selling, I'm a little bit uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Describe to us what gratitude inspired selling is and how it would work and how we can start using it in our own businesses.
Absolutely, yeah. And if I can, I'd like to share with you a story that provides the context of this. Then,
Yeah.
about 6 years ago, I was speaking at the Nonprofit Technology Conference, and when I was in Washington D.C., I was staying with my friends Neil and Heather. Now, Neil and Heather have this amazing 10-year-old daughter named Kendall, and every morning when we would sit down and have breakfast together, Kendall would just light up the room with her energy and her curiosity. And so it was just a great way to start off the day. And so the third day, the final day that I was there, we were sitting down and we had breakfast together. Kendall was really quiet and she just kept to herself and she was just looking down at her bowl of cereal. And I said, "Hey, Kendall, what's going on? You seem different today." And she said, "Yeah, well, I have to go sell Girl Scout cookies." And I said, "What's wrong with that? People love cookies." She's like, "Yeah, but every time I go out and I ask someone if they want to buy a box of cookies, I get rejected, and that doesn't feel good." And I said, "Oh, Kendall, I totally understand. I've been rejected so many times, and yeah, you're right, it doesn't feel good." And so I said, "Hey, Kendall, how much are your cookies?" And she said, "They're $4 a box." So I reached in my wallet, I pulled out a 20, and I gave her, and I said, "Hey, why don't you give me 5 boxes?" And she's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." And then I said, "Hey, Kendall, now here's the thing though. I don't eat cookies myself. And so what I want you to do is I want you to take those 5 boxes and I want you to give them to 5 people you've never met before." All of a sudden, her eyes lit up. She leaped out of her chair. She ran to her mom and said, "Mom, guess what? We get to give cookies away." And her excitement was it just like changed just like that. And I said, "Now, Kendall, here's the reason why I want you to do that is I want you to know what it's like to just make someone's day. I want you to see and hear and just feel their appreciation. And I want you to do that 5 times so you really know what that's like. Then, when you're out there and you're selling cookies, try this instead of asking someone if they want to buy cookies. Ask them, "Hey, is there someone in your life that you really care about? Because I'd like to help you make their day by giving them a box of cookies." And so what we're doing is we're taking this experience where we're stressed about, can I convince someone? Can I, try to get someone to do something? Instead, now we're creating an opportunity for them to give.
Mm.
And so when we think about selling and we think about gratitude inspired selling, one of the most powerful tools that we can offer to build that trust, to build that connection, to help someone see what's possible is through our customer stories. But too often we're approaching these customer stories or case studies, experiences by trying to do a quote unquote testimonial. And a lot of times when we approach these testimonials, it's like, "Hey, can you do me a favor and tell me about your experience or say some good things about my business?" And there's this energy of like, again, trying to prove or being about you. Whereas if we approach it from a gratitude inspired selling approach, now really appreciating someone that you've served well and inviting them to share their story, sharing their journey, sharing their decision-making process, and really ultimately sharing their gratitude for how you've served them and how you've helped them. Now we have an opportunity to deepen that connection. And one of the biggest challenges that people have in asking their clients to do a testimonial, because it feels awkward to say, "Hey, can you do a testimonial?" One of the ways in which we help people do that is, again, creating that invitation. "Hey, Scott, what a joy it's been to work with you. I would love to be able to help more people like you. And would you be open to, or I'd like to invite you to share your story so that we can help inspire others and I can help others as well. Is that something that you would like to do?" So now I'm giving you an opportunity to pass along those box of cookies to others then, rather than just saying, "Hey, can you do a testimonial?" So that's the secret approach, or secret, but that's the key. And then when someone's on camera, especially when we help them create these customer gratitude videos, one of the easiest ways to get someone who is nervous about being on camera is to start off with gratitude. I always, before I interview someone, I always find out from my client about them what they appreciate most about them, what inspires them most about them. And so, for example, if I was getting ready to interview Scott, I would start off by saying, before we even dive in, it's like, hey, Scott, I just wanted to let you know, I got a chance to talk with so-and-so, and they shared with me just how much they appreciate you, how thoughtful you are, how committed you are, and how big of a difference that you make. And I just wanted to share that with you. By doing that right at the beginning of our conversation, it releases all of this anxiousness, the stress of needing to perform, because they're open to receiving that. And now they're ready to reciprocate with amazing, authentic experiences. So those are some of the key secrets to this gratitude-inspired selling approach.
Yeah, love that. Thank you for sharing the cookie story. And I love that, just that reframing. You're inviting your client to share their story in order to inspire somebody else, and that's their way of giving back. We're coaches. Our clients are clients. They're receiving our coaching. They may not have the opportunity in their daily lives to give back, and now you're opening up the doors for them to do so. Really cool how you reframe that. Okay, let's begin to wrap up. I want to end talk about thank you cards. I know you're big on thank you cards, as am I. It's one of the main ways that I love to show appreciation. How have you used thank you cards in your business, Yasmin?
Yeah, great. This is one of my favorites, and it's a gratitude 2.0 hack, by the way. And so I call them appreciation cards. And what I actually do is what I've gone through is I went through my entire phone book. I went through all my Facebook. I went through all my LinkedIn. I created a spreadsheet of all the people that have made some sort of an impact in my life. And, for people I don't know, they don't make it on this particular list. But that way now I always have a list of people that I don't have to think about who do I want to appreciate per se. Then I have a stack of cards available so that there's no excuse not to write them. But the secret for me is the template or the format in which I write these, because I always found like I used to get stuck on, well, what do I write to Scott, or what do I write to Jill, whoever else? And the format that I use, that I also teach on my podcast, the Gratitude Hacks podcast, is you always start off, or at least I've always started off with, Dear Scott, I remember the time when ... So now I'm reconnecting with the moment that we shared, something special, that magic moment then. And by doing that now, it brings me into that moment. And when the reader, it brings them into that moment. Then I shift into what I appreciate most about you is. So it's not necessarily something that you did as a reciprocal or to thank you, but it's about a quality about yourself, something about you that I appreciate most. And then the final part, and this is a part where I just think to myself, if today was my last day, what would I want you to know? And so now I'm going really deep in terms of what would I want to share with you. There's an element of vulnerability there. But by going through this process, it not only, whatever funk I'm in, it shifts me into this just really deep space. And by sharing this and sending this out, it has opened up so many doors to not only connections, to open doors to business. Because how often do you receive a card where someone brings you into a space of connection, tells you what they appreciate about who you are, and then reveals something so deep that is meaningful because they cherish you? What would you be willing to do for that? And so it's, again, that's my approach to writing these cards. And so I just go, and on some days I'll just do a random number generator, and I'll look at my spreadsheet and it's like, oh, number 46. Oh, that's Scott. I'm going to write Scott a card. So I'm really removing all of the friction along the process here. If I don't have your mailing address, I still write the card first, and I'll get the mailing address later. Too often we get stuck on the minutia here that prevents us from actually doing this. And so that's part of my appreciation card practice there to reconnect with others.
I absolutely love that. I mean, it's rare enough that we get a card in the mail from a business thanking us for our purchase or whatever the case may be. But to actually take it that deep, it's super rare. I don't even know what terminology I want to use, to get a card from somebody where they really open up and share their appreciation of who we are as people.
Right.
not as a client or as a customer, but as people. And I think that's the key that you were emphasizing. And then I love how all this can be intertwined because, if you go to the Oregon coast and you're sitting and listening to the ocean and you're writing one of these deeply profound cards, that can only positively affect your mood and your joy. And when you get back, you're kind of ready to crush your business. So it all kind of comes in full circle as well as to help your business.
Yeah, you totally hit the nail on the head there, Scott. Is going to the coast or unplugging is creating that space. Now we're taking gratitude, the superfood, and we're filling that space to deepen our own connection, to feel important that we're contributing, to feel like we're growing. All of these, human needs here. Now we're filling it with the superfood, and we're planting the seeds for future opportunities with those relationships. So. Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. Love everything you're doing, Yasmin. I feel so grateful and blessed that we've connected, that you were able to do this interview with me. We have a lot in common. Hopefully we can get to know each other even better. So I mentioned your website as well. It's gratitudeinspiredliving.com. Where else can we connect you? Other websites or on social media if we just want to get more of what you're doing and learn more about you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Scott. It's been such a pleasure, and I'm excited to deepen our connection as well too. There's a couple of areas where people can reach out. First, if you like these gratitude ideas, then I have a podcast that I do with my co-host Rebecca called the Gratitude Hacks Podcast. There's a link on the Gratitude Inspired Living that will drop you there, or you can go to gratitudehacks.com directly. And again, these are very simple, practical ways to incorporate gratitude in your work, your life, and your relationships. The second is vibranceglobal.com. That's where we help clients share their customer gratitude stories to help them generate more sales and build relationships. And then the final place is my own site, yasminnguyen.com, Nguyen. And that's where I do my public speaking, and also I have, similar to you, I'm working on some retreats, and then also working with companies to help them really create amazing top performers that are resilient to burnout.
Awesome. Great stuff, Yasmin. Thank you so much again for being a guest. I appreciate you very much, and I'm glad I made a new friend.
Yeah, what a pleasure and what a gift to share time and this experience with you, and to be able to share this with your audience. So thank you, Scott.
Everybody watching, thank you for watching this interview with myself and Yasmin on this episode of the Grateful Entrepreneur Summit. Thanks again, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.